everyone. On behalf of the President of the Chamber, Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, and the Chamber's Science and Innovation Leadership Forum, I'd like to welcome you to the launch of our report entitled Recommendations to Build Stronger Ties Between India and Australia in Technology and Innovation, a Call to Action. A warm welcome to our speakers who are present here today and those who are joining us virtually, members of the media. We have the Deccan Chronicle, the Hindu Business Line, and the Times of India who are here with us today, and representatives from government and industry who are present with us. Welcome to our members and to media who are joining us from other parts of India and Australia and watching this live on YouTube. Technology is playing a pivotal role in framing industries and creating new opportunities. Opportunities to advance collaborative efforts and discussions in the fields of science, technology, and innovation. Beyond strengthening the partnership between India and Australia, which both Prime Ministers, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Morrison, have committed to as part of the comprehensive strategic partnership, it will also substantially enhance growth prospects for both countries. So this report, drafted with the support of KPMG, a member of the Chamber and the knowledge partner for our Tech and Innovation Virtual Trade Mission, considered views of 82 industry leaders, senior government representatives, and tech experts from both countries. It was a coincidence that we had exactly 41 from India and 41 from Australia. So we see this report serving as a roadmap for implementing the recommendations set out for stakeholders, primarily in 6 key sectors. And the sectors were Fintech, Agri Tech, R&D and Innovation, Ed Tech, e-commerce, and retail tech. The Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce's Science and Innovation Industry Sector Leadership Forum, now that was launched earlier this year in February, and it will serve as a key facilitator. The co-chairs are from Infosys and TCS, Deepak Padaki, who's joining us virtually, and Suresh Raman, who is here from TCS, and they're here with us. So the Science and Innovation Leadership Forum will engage stakeholders regularly to develop a short-term, that's 6 to 12 months, and a long-term, 2 to 3 years, strategy to deliver on the 41 recommendations made that this report sets out, and our intention is to create lasting high impact. As I mentioned, KPMG was knowledge partner for our virtual trade mission and assisted us with drafting the recommendations made by experts. I'd like to invite Pavik Damodar, Office Managing Partner, Mumbai, and Partner Deal Advisory, KPMG. He's also on the Chamber's Western India Chapter Committee to add on to these comments on the introduction of the strategy.
Thank you so much, Petula, and good afternoon to everyone who's here virtually as well as physically. It's actually good to see that, while we're talking about technology, we're actually having a few people who are there physically, and we're back to the old world in some sense. So it's really good to see that. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, and I'm joining virtually. So I think tech has actually come a long way and has become a way of life, especially during the pandemic. And it's actually a CEO level agenda today. It's no longer something that an organization can't deal with. And as we kind of worked on this technology and innovation strategy, we actually laid out a reasonably detailed strategy across sectors with detailed action recommendations for various stakeholders on both the Australian and the Indian side. And I'm going to briefly touch upon some of these in the sectors that Petula just mentioned. So I think on agri-tech, there's a significant potential for India to learn from Australia and use technology to improve yields, and improve the productivity of the agricultural sector. And I think there is a huge opportunity for packaged food companies and Australian food processing companies to actually tie up with Indian companies and utilize tech to actually make this a much bigger market at both sides. Of course, there are, government pushes needed in terms of, trade barriers, etc. But I think both governments are committed to making this relationship much larger. In terms of e-commerce and retail tech, I think India is at the start of a journey which is much bigger than where we are today. And the pandemic has actually shown that e-commerce has again become a way of life in India. And I think just given the size of the market, there are many Australian startups who could actually leverage a lot of their innovative technology in the Indian market to tap into the large opportunity, either by themselves or through a JV partner. And even Indian e-commerce and retail tech players could actually look at the Australian market as a test market before they actually take their technology to other parts of the world, because it's not a large market, but it's a very sophisticated, very mature market. And we are seeing people like Ola already doing that. So I think that's another big area. The third area is ed tech. So I think online education is pivotal for India to meet its skilling and extensive educational needs. And again, the pandemic has shown us that educational solutions can also be virtual. Of course, it's not ideal, but they can also be virtual, and a lot can be done virtually. And Australia has been a leader in innovative solutions, and it's got reliable mobile technology, and they can offer distance learning and reskilling in a very different way. So I think some of these collaborations will help India as it looks to create more jobs, improve its skilling indices, and also kind of take education and skilling to the remotest corners. And I think we can definitely have learnings from the Australian model, as well as Australian institutions like TAFE. Fintech is again an area where I think Australia has done a lot more work than India, though India has got some of the best payment systems and other systems across the world today. And on especially areas like SME lending, screening, setting up innovation labs is where I think a lot of work is jointly possible, because again, the market is huge in India. And it's, I think, very accepting of new technology and new innovation. Similarly, health tech, I think the healthcare sector has got a lot of focus in the last few months. But I think we're again at the start of a healthcare journey. So in terms of a universal health ID, how do you kind of digitize all the health data? How do you do more teleconsults, etc.? While some of it is happening, I think there's scope to do more. Again, there's a lot of work that's happening at the Indian and Australian end. So, great possibility for collaboration. And then the final point is on cybersecurity, because when we're talking about technology, I think, data security becomes very, very important. Again, a lot of work happening on both sides, and there are complementary skills that exist. In many cases, actually, I think, India could be a good supplier of resources for Australia, as well as, innovation for Australia on the cyber side, because they've done a lot of work there. And this will actually support businesses in enhancing digital trade in a very secure manner. So I think, with the growing collaboration between the two countries, the governments and the industries, there will be many new opportunities that will come up. And it's hard to visualize everything that could exist, but we've actually tried to put some structure through our report into some of these opportunities. And I think, as we continue down this journey, I'm sure if we were to do this conference coming again in the next 12 months, we'll see a lot of progress at both ends. So that's it from me, and over to you, Petula.
Thank you so much, Pavik, and please do stay on for the rest of the program. Thank you for highlighting that much has been done in terms of collaboration, but there are a lot more opportunities to strengthen those technological linkages between the two countries, and that's what our efforts will hope to achieve. I'd now like to invite on stage our speakers who are here in person. Ms. Sarah Curlew, Consul General for Southern India, Australian Consulate General in Chennai, if you could please come up. Dr. Niraj Mithal, Principal Secretary to Government, Information Technology Department, Government of Tamil Nadu. And Mr. Suresh Raman, co-chair of the ISCC Science and Innovation Leadership Forum and vice president and regional head, Tata Consultancy Services. Thank you very much for being here with us. Virtually joining us, apart from Pavik, is Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Kumar, and for your patience. We had a bit of a late start, so thank you for joining us. And we have Mr. Deepak Padaki, Vice President of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce, and Executive Vice President, Strategy, Mergers and Acquisitions, and Chief Risk Officer, Infosys, who is again joining us virtually. Before we move on to the keynote addresses that we have, on behalf of the Chamber, we just like to present a small memento and thank our guests who are here in person, and we will send the mementos to those who are joining us virtually. This is our first hybrid event. Thank you very much. We now move on to the keynote addresses. His Excellency, the Honourable Barry O'Farrell AO, the Australian High Commissioner to India, Ms. Sarah Curlew, Australian Consul General for Southern India, and her team, Mr. Michael Costa, Deputy CG, who's here, who are all present here today, and all missions across India are a strong support to the Chamber, including for this initiative and report. I'm really looking forward to hearing your remarks, Sarah, and I'd like to invite you to deliver your keynote address.
Thank you, Petula. And it's really indeed a particular pleasure to be here today. I came to Chennai in January. Then, of course, we had the second wave, and I actually think this might be the first time I've had the pleasure of using a lectern to deliver an in-person event since I took up my term here. So, good morning, vanakkam, vandanam, namaskara, namaste. A very warm welcome to distinguished guests and media present here today. I would like to begin by acknowledging state and federal government agencies who are participating, including Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar, Joint Secretary from METI, and of course our good friend Mr. Niraj Mithal, Principal Secretary for IT, Government of Tamil Nadu. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of leaders from Australian and Indian tech firms, Mr. Gavin Standen, Executive Partner Ecosystem Telstra, Mr. Deepak Padakai, Vice President of the Indo-Australia Chamber of Commerce and Executive Vice President Strategy and Chief Risk Officer Infosys, Mr. Suresh Raman, Co-Chair of the IACC Science and Innovation Leadership Forum and Vice President and Regional Head, Tata Consultancy Services. My thanks to and acknowledgement of Ms. Petula Thomas, CEO of the Indo-Australia Chamber of Commerce. Many of you know that women in leadership is a particular passion of mine, and I think we have no better example of a strong woman in leadership than Petula, with her guidance of the Chamber and her very richly deserved elevation to the CEO role. I thought I would talk to you about three things today. First, the Australia-India tech relationship and how the government is working together with the Indian government on our complementary critical technology credentials. Second, the reason we're here today, the IACC report, which we are showcasing. And third, a few words about what comes next, and in particular, the Bengaluru Tech Summit. India is a major technology power and a global leader in shaping the rules and norms underpinning emerging technologies. Australia, too, has a significant role to play and deep interests in ensuring the next generation of technologies enable growth and innovation and protect basic human freedoms. We're already making in Australia pioneering advances in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, quantum computing and 5G, and also the policy frameworks which govern the use of these technologies. With this strong respective capability, shared values and interests, it makes sense for our governments to put in place pathways for closer collaboration. our Prime Ministers elevated the bilateral relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership in mid-2020. If there's one thing the pandemic has not slowed, it's been the growing strategic ties between Australia and India. In particular, our governments are putting in place practical arrangements on cyber and cyber-enabled critical technologies. Already, Australia and India were close partners on science, technology and innovation, but now our officials are committed to taking that a level deeper. Our government has committed grant funding to encourage research and innovation, and our leaders are in close contact on these topics. As both countries embrace technology to recover, modernise and expand our economies in the wake of the pandemic, increasing two-way trade and investment remains at the heart of the Australian government's plan to boost jobs, growth and prosperity in the region. We applaud India's ambitious program of economic reform, and both countries are committed to negotiating a high-quality, comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, or free trade agreement, by the end of next year, with an early harvest agreement by the end of this. This will maximise economic prosperity, including through boosting business confidence, enhancing competitiveness, and supporting regional economic integration. We're also taking the time to look through all of the other structures of our economic relationship to make sure they're fit for purpose, modern, and ready to help the businesses from both of our countries work more closely together. But now, the reason we're here today, the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce Deepening India-Australia Ties in Tech and Innovation report. On behalf of the Australian Government, it is my great pleasure to welcome this report and the specific pathways it identifies to accelerate bilateral technology and innovation collaboration in the 6 key sectors we've heard about already: Agri Tech, e-commerce and retail tech, ed tech, Fintech, health tech, and R&D. I sometimes joke that now you can say anything and add the word tech and it's a thing, but I actually think these 6 are well-chosen, specific priorities with very clear recommendations on how we can take collaboration forward. I know the report has also been drafted to think about complementary strategies to other reports that we have, including the India Economic Strategy by Australia's DFAT Secretary Peter Varghese, and the Australia Economic Strategy led by Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, who also a good friend of the Chamber. We look forward to working with you all, with the IACC, its members, government and industry, to implement the recommendations with the report and look forward to tracking progress. My patch is the 5 southern Indian states, but I know that my colleagues in Delhi, Mumbai and Calcutta are also keen to work with you, to hear from you and to implement these outcomes. Finally, next steps. I am pleased to announce that Australia will have a strong country presence at the forthcoming Bengaluru Tech Summit. We expect over 300 Australian policymakers, industry leaders, entrepreneurs and academics to participate. And the IACC will host an exclusive country session to unpack the opportunities and recommendations of this report across the 6 core sectors. The Bengaluru Tech Summit will also be held at exactly the same time as the Sydney Dialogue, Australia's global summit for emerging critical and cyber technologies. This happy coincidence means we will be able to stream sessions on the BTS platform from the Sydney Dialogue and likewise from the BTS on the Sydney Dialogue, highlighting the complementarity between the policy approaches in both of our countries. There will also be an exclusive session on how Quad countries can collaborate in the golden age of space and how Australia and India can improve global technology governance. So, in conclusion, congratulations to the IACC, to all those who were involved in putting together this call to action for government, industry, and academia. We look forward to working with you to implement the recommendations in the coming months. Thank you.
Many thanks, Sarah, for the support that we receive and also for that brilliant overview on the growing bilateral relationship in tech and innovation and collaboration between India and Australia. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has been a key participant in our event in February, contributing to some of the recommendations that you will read in this report. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, Mr. Manpreet Vohra, Indian High Commissioner to Australia, and the Indian consulates in Australia, as well as Mr. Ajay Prakash Sahni, Secretary, and Dr. Ajay Garg from METI for their invaluable support and participation. We're really pleased to have Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, with us virtually today. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, for your participation at this event, and we're looking forward to hear your keynote address.
Good morning and greetings from the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of this gathering today on the occasion of the media launch of the report prepared by IESEC. On this occasion, I welcome Her Excellency Ms. Sara Kirlo, our senior colleague, Dr. Niraj Mithal, Principal Secretary to the Government of Tamil Nadu, Mr. Bhavik Damodar from the KPMG and the Managing Partner in Deal Advisory, Mr. Deepak Padaki, who is the Vice President of ISCC and also from Infosys, Mr. Suresh Raman on the dais from Tata Consultancy Services, and of course, Ms. Petula Thomas, the CEO of ISCC. It is a real pleasure to be part of any dialogue happening, which leads to collaboration between the two countries of India and Australia, which share a lot more than what could be usually assumed to be between the two countries. Apart from the vibrant democracies and, of course, the Commonwealth nations, perhaps many may not even know that the Australia Day and the Republic Day of India falls on 26th of January. So that's a common point for the two countries. This report on the recommendation to build stronger ties between India and Australia is definitely going to lead to a way forward where the recommendation can be put into practice, because India strongly believes that technology and innovation is really very important, and especially the pandemic has shown that. Incidentally, my secretary, Mr. Ajay Prakash Sahni, was supposed to participate, but because of his commitment in another program, I was supposed to come and join you. But then I had certain commitments and I had to travel. And today, it gives me immense pride telling you that I'm sitting in one of the remote villages in Haryana. Because of a family commitment, I'm participating in this workshop from there. Which really goes on to say, show that India has really done well and great in terms of improved communication and technologies, in spite of the fact that it is a huge country of roughly 1.4 billion people. The Government of India has done commendable job to connect the people from all parts of the country. And we have gone on to prove that technology is for inclusion and sustainable development against the normal belief that technology is leading to a digital divide, which is happening. It's also very nice to see that this meeting is happening in the physical mode. Physical is what people are now calling a hybrid of physical and digital. So it's also good to see that some kind of normalcy is slowly returning. So this is also quite a welcome step. Now, coming to the emerging technologies, which are mostly the part of this report also, and the areas which have been chosen in this particular report in the Agri Tech sector, Edu-Tech sector, the e-commerce and health tech, etc. In my opinion, these are the areas of the future, and in coming 3 to 5 years, we are going to see an immense and huge growth happening in this area. For me, especially personally, EduTech is very close to my heart. I have spent more than 5 years in the area of vocational education and skill development in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And I also got this opportunity to visit Australia and study their TEF system. I was quite impressed with that. And I personally think that there is a huge possibility of collaboration between the two countries. That is one area which I know personally, but there are possibilities of equal collaboration in all the other sectors. As we can say that the Indian size is huge, and anything happening on India scale leads to a market for anybody, which can be huge. Even if we are talking about the startups, which is mentioned in the report also, from the both sides, and if the Australian startups want to explore the market in India, that can really be huge. And of course, I mean, everybody today knows that India is the third largest vibrant startup ecosystem in the world. And with the kind of unicorns happening in India, somebody jokingly said that it has been raining unicorns in India this year. We have reached more than 60 plus unicorns, and I'm sure we are going to reach that number of 100, which we thought initially to reach by 2025. We are going to reach it much faster and much before that, and probably go on to become one of the largest ecosystems in the world. With the collaboration from countries like Australia, and definitely this can be done much faster. The government of India has been talking about the $1 trillion digital economy and the 5 trillion economy of the country by 2025. And a lot of these programs from the Digital India, which is the flagship program of India, are leading towards that. And I see a huge growth which is happening in these sectors. So, I mean, not taking too much of the time, I would really like to say that India and Australia, who enjoy a very friendly and cordial relation, and this cooperation in the ICT sector between India and Australia can really be strengthened. And this report can be really very useful. In fact, the status of bilateral cooperation between the two countries was recently upgraded to the strategic partnership. And also, I know that we are negotiating a CECA, the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement between the two countries. And also on the platform of Quad, we are collaborating together, and especially working on the resilient supply chains, which really have been affected due to the pandemic. So there are multiple platforms where the two countries are collaborating together, and during this time, this report really is going to be a big step. So I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce on bringing this report to deepen India-Australia ties in tech and innovation. And I am sure that these recommendations given in the report on Agri Tech, e-commerce, retail tech, edutech, fintech, health tech, R&D, innovation, cybersecurity, and especially with respect to startups, this will lead to building very strong ties between India and Australia in technology and innovation. My best wishes on this occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar, for your insightful and encouraging comments on the relationship and also to the support on this report. But I think more for your personal commitment to be here with us today and to represent the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which is such a key partner to us to be able to deliver on these recommendations, along with the Australian government and, of course, the Indian High Commission in Canberra. So we definitely need your support, Mr. Sani's support, and the entire team at METI. So thank you so much for that. We now move on to the special address from Dr. Niraj Mithal, Principal Secretary to Government, Information Technology Department, Government of Tamil Nadu. Dr. Mithal is well known, is respected, has engaged with us and most of us present here, I think, today, in his former role as well, when he headed Guidance Tamil Nadu and made such a huge impact to inward investments into the state. Looking forward to your special address and your insights from a Tamil Nadu government perspective, as well as on the recommendations for the report.
Ms. Sarah Curlew, Consul General for Australia for South India, Mr. Michael Costa, Ms. Petula Thomas, CEO, IACC, Mr. Bhuvnesh Kumar, my colleague in METI, Mr. Deepak Padaki from IACC, Mr. Suresh Raman, my colleague from TCS, Mr. Gavin Standen from Telstra, friends from the press, colleagues from KPMG. I'm really delighted to be here today because I see Indo-Australia relationship. If I say anything about it, it would be stating the obvious, so I will not bother saying anything. It is so deep and strong, and I have already been a part of this journey when I was in guidance, and today again, I'm thankful to IACC for giving me this opportunity to be a part of the IACC Tech and Innovation Report launch. Both the countries really have a lot of complementarities. The other speakers have all spoken about it. But in technology, as the Consul General said, you can add tech to anything these days because technology is such a horizontal enabler to our entire life. Not just us, our kids, when they are born, they're technology enabled. They have, when they are in the crib, there is a phone there is wireless, there is, all sorts of things. So technology has seeped in so deeply that I think we cannot avoid it in any form, and we will see it everywhere. And that's where these complementary skills of, India as a nation, as a place where technology and software dominance has been a great strength, will be of use to many countries, and we can collaborate with each other. Simultaneously, I think we are also facing talent shortage. I mean, it's very oxymoronic that India is facing a talent shortage, and that is where I think collaboration in EdTech, getting talent and R&D and the skills, training, collaboration from Australia would be of great use to us. Coming to specifically about Tamil Nadu, I think there are a lot of areas of where we can collaborate. For example, Tamil Nadu is the first state to have a policy on AI. I think Australia also released a similar framework. We have already very strong relationships in manufacturing with Australian companies. It is at this time that this report really makes a lot of sense to expand our relationship into technology. Tamil Nadu is growing. The Honorable Chief Minister has set his aspiration that we should become a $1 trillion economy. Technology will definitely play a very important role. I would just quickly cover what Tamil Nadu is doing on technological front so that it gives all of the people present here a flavor of what is around and seek your help and support. We are launching, we've just launched the first, the BharatNet project, which will connect the Gram Panchayats to 1 gigabits per second fiber optic backbone. And that project is supposed to finish in about a year and a half. And once that happens, I think, as Bhuvnesh was talking from, from a village, we will have, education, entertainment, telemedicine, a host of opportunities will open up in 1 year's time. And we need to prepare now. Because once that happens, once it rolls out, then I think it'll be too late. And therefore, all these technologies, agriculture, education, remote, diagnosis, will all come to fruition. Government of Tamil Nadu, through its Center of Excellence in TNEGA, does a lot of cutting edge work. So, for example, we are deploying AI to detect diseases. We have deployed AI to detect, cataract. We have natural language processing research project going on. We have chatbots in Tamil. So in a nutshell, the technology is being deployed in many areas. Tamil Nadu presents specific good opportunity for e-commerce space because we have almost 50% urbanization, the largest. We have good connectivity, good roads, so people can go and deliver stuff even to the remotest villages. On Fintech, we have already an accelerator and an incubator called FinBlue, which we are doing in collaboration with METI. It has a combined revenue of all the startups of about 600 crore rupees as of today. We have recently entered into a collaboration with ASEAN Financial Innovation Network, AFIN, with the help of Monetary Authority of Singapore. We look forward to have a similar collaboration with Australia. We are health tourism capital, right? And therefore, health tech again becomes a big, attraction to all companies. On R&D and innovation, I think Tamil Nadu provides the best talent. We are a talent supplier to, I think, almost all the states surrounding us. Freshworks, Zoho, unicorns are coming out from Tamil Nadu as we speak. Recently, I saw another near unicorn called Kovai.co from Coimbatore again on the SaaS side. On cybersecurity, it is becoming again a critical feature. I think the future wars will be fought in cyberspace, not in physical space. And we need to really gear up and collaborate with like-minded countries and partners to protect our cyberspace and assets. So with these few words, I hope that when we come out with a detailed strategy of implementation, we will focus on Tamil Nadu and we will be able to partner together and add value. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mithal. Always a very interesting and inspirational, update and speech from you. And we definitely look forward to working with the government of Tamil Nadu in implementing many of these recommendations, as you've highlighted. We now move on to the next part of the program. We have heard from government, which is very important, a partner for us to work with, and equally important is industry. And it's a joint effort where government, industry, and academia, and all of us work together to take forward these recommendations. We now will have comments from the Indian industry. So we have Deepak Pataki, who's here, Suresh Raman, and we will also have comments from Gavin Standen, the executive partner ecosystem Telstra, who again, like Mr. Kumar, has been very kind and given us his time joining us from London when away. So thank you as well for the commitment. It really helps us to push ahead on this strategy. So with that, I'll request Deepak to make his comments. Deepak is a Vice President of the ISCC and also EVP Strategy and Chief Risk Officer Emphasis.
Thank you, Petula, and thank you to all of the keynote speakers for their wonderful comments. And let me just echo that, it has never been a more opportune moment for the ties between India and Australia to be strengthened. There's so much going on that we in the business as well feel both governments really trying to make things work for us on the ground. The IACC itself, if I wear that hat for a minute, I think our job is to be a provocator and a facilitator. And I think in this summit and this report, that's the role we have taken, trying to bring together government, people, university, businesses, and see what provocative recommendations we can make. And if you do look at the report, you will see that it's quite ambitious. The recommendations we've made, quite a few in different areas. And even if we get a few of them across, I think it will be a tremendous step forward in the relationship between the two countries. The summit itself, when Suresh and I, as co-chairs of the summit as well, tried to pick out the areas, we were very focused on application of technology, right? You have a lot of summits which are talking about technology itself, but we felt that it's time when different sectors come together in the usage of technology, and that's why you see this focus on, the different, Agri Tech, retail tech, and so on. And of course, we've had solid support from the governments, but I do hope there are some recommendations here from the business on where the government could further establish strong connection between specific departments, which can then filter down into helping businesses work smoother between the two countries. Personally, I'm excited about some of the technology uses in increasing inclusivity, right? Especially things like EdTech, like the Joint Secretary mentioned, Health Tech, and Agri Tech. And there are some very detailed recommendations on these areas, because any amount of innovation that we can do here will always be beneficial, given the huge size of the countries on both sides and the need to have more inclusive access, to capital, to healthcare, and so on. So I'm personally quite excited about these three areas, and I hope we'll be able to make some progress based on the recommendations. And for businesses, I think the interest levels are very evident when you look at the number of people who attended, so many sessions. And I'm particularly impressed because we were able to get a lot of speakers from the business community in India and in Australia participate in this summit. And most of these recommendations are coming from their words, right? And so I think, this is very reflective of how much interest there is on the business side to really look for stronger ties between the two countries. I will also say that, this report is only the beginning. I think we want this to be a live dialogue going forward. And like Sarah mentioned in her opening remarks, we're looking forward to digging further in the Bangalore Tech Summit on some of these areas. And of course, the IACC is a very active community of businesses across the country with participants on both sides, from both Australia and India. And it is our endeavor to keep this discussion alive and see if we can get some very firm outcomes from these recommendations. And finally, I must let you know that, as we were looking at all the different techs to include in the summit, we did consider sports tech, but given the huge rivalry, we felt that we should leave that to the cricket field and not share secrets on that front. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Petula.
Thanks very much, Deepak. We did consider sports tech. I think there will be a few more areas that we'd focus on, but for now, I think it was the 6 that we've chosen. But I think with Deepak's focus, with Suresh Raman's focus as the 2 co-chairs, and all of us at the IACC and everyone who's involved in this, we definitely hope to be making progress. Thank you, Deepak, for all you do as Vice President and for your comments. I'd now like to invite Suresh Raman, who's the other co-chair of our Science and Innovation Leadership Forum, and also the regional head of TCS, to come and give us his comments.
Thanks, Petula. I'm delighted to be here. I think I can recollect when Deepak, me, and Petula, we discussed about how to come up with something very different and first of its kind, tech and innovation, virtual trade commission we wanted to do. And with a lot of support from the Australian government people here and the Consul General and Michael, the Deputy Consul General, I think a lot of teamwork happened also within the IACC. I think fantastic, phenomenal work. Frankly, I feel very proud to be associated with this report. I think when Deepak and me as co-chairs, we discussed a lot of things, and we wanted to make it a mammoth event actually. So we had about 17 sessions and 82 speakers. I think the numbers are there in everywhere. And the amount of delegates from India and Australia who attended as well as participated, I think it was really a thing which was required for Indo-Australian Chamber, because we wanted to come out of our shell and do things like this. And probably this is probably going to set the stage for us to do many more virtual trade missions, or even actually in-person missions for many other sectors. And also with the government of Tamil Nadu and other state governments keen to really take this partnership between India and Australia forward. I think there's a lot more things to do. At least I think we have probably just scratched the surface. And I've been always excited last 3-4 years about this Indo-Australia relationship, given the changes which is happening globally and democracies, some of the democracies coming together. I think I've always felt it was a tremendous opportunity for us. And what better than to start with something more on tech and innovation. I think people talked about cybersecurity and other challenges. And one of the things which we thought about is India is always about scale and getting digital big way with all this Aadhaar and Ayushman Bharat and COVID app, etc. But Australia, I think they've been doing phenomenally well, and they're doing a lot of work on critical technologies, whether it's 5G, AI, everything. A lot of things are happening in R&D as well, research and innovation, and health tech. So we felt this was a very good opportunity for us to look at how do we make the collaboration happen in different sectors. I think there are other speakers. I think Petul also talked about the 6 sectors. I think we looked at, I think states like Tamil Nadu and even other states in Tamil Nadu have a lot of water-related problem and agriculture-related problem. A lot of Agri Tech is really required in India. I think tremendous collaboration opportunities, whether hydroponics, aquaponics, and a lot of things are there, and the food processing space as well. And I think we want a lot of agriculture startups there in Australia. We would like to see how to leverage that for Indian context as well. And from, I think, companies like TCS, Infosys, and other companies also, we are also trying to work with many startups in Australia and trying to give them foothold into many of our customers, which we'll probably do further for many of the other companies as well there. And e-commerce and retail is a pet subject for me because I was from that space for TCS. I think the supply chain disruptions, I think everybody knows it's creating havoc, and it's a tremendous opportunity for us to look at how we work on the digital marketing and other stuff, and how do we ensure that we leverage this. And ed technologies, I think again, we looked at it very closely. We wanted Government of India and Government of Tamil Nadu institutions also to look at how do we leverage the Australian universities. I think NCRT, NSDC, or even the DOT is there in Chennai. How do we leverage and try to bring some collaboration between the Australian universities and Indian universities? I think and TAFE, that technology and further education in Australia, is something which probably I think from the government perspective, probably we could see what we can leverage TAFE for. And more importantly, the vocational training, which probably in today's world is more required than ever. So I think that's where probably you could collaborate. And Fintech space is another interesting space which we want to ensure that while India is doing phenomenally well in the payment space, and a lot of startups are there in Australia as well. And I think more and more it will be going to be branchless banks. I think tremendous opportunities in that space. And that people talked about talent shortage. I think it's going to be there everywhere. While the people might be there, the right talent may not be there. I think that's where we could really bridge the gap. And one other topics can touch, but health tech is another important topic which has come into prominence, especially on the with the medtech companies in Australia can offer a lot more for us, and the type of digitization which is required on the coding of patients. I think the standardization is really required. Many more opportunities are going to be thrown up for us. I feel as being part of IACC as well as being from the IT industry, I feel there's tremendous potential for all of us to leverage and take this partnership to a new level. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Suresh, for those comments, highlighting the opportunities as well as for the support from TCS, who is also a report partner for this initiative. We now will have comments from Mr. Gavin Stanton and from Telstra, and if we can have those comments on, please.
Good day, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this media launch. I would like to start by thanking the initiative taken up by the Indo-Australian Chambers of Commerce that has put together an exceptional piece of research that brings to life the strategic and close ties between both the governments. Quite rightfully, the relationship has been elevated to a very comprehensive partnership, since there is so much to cross-leverage, and the report reflects multitudes of those sectors underpinned by the technology and innovation landscape. I represent Telstra, a company with a very proud and a long Australian heritage. We have remained very committed to leverage the diverse talent that India has to offer. We have always had a large presence, both through indirect and direct workforce, over the last couple of decades. And over the last 2 years, we have invested in innovation assets, and very specifically started our first Innovation and Capability Center in Bangalore in 2019. And recently, we expanded into Pune and Hyderabad, where we have strengthened ourselves to leverage the digital capabilities even further from India. In addition to this, quite uniquely, we have also invested in building a world-class 5G IoT lab in Bangalore, which will help us to explore many business cases that will help us transform our customer experience with a large enterprise and consumer base in Australia. The two new innovation and capability centers in Pune and Hyderabad give us the ability to diversify our talent acquisition and specialize our capabilities in sub-areas of innovation where we leverage local talent pools. This gives us the ability to build skills in the telecom business that pretty much revolves around IoT, 5G, network engineering, software services, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. Our new innovation and capability centers will provide opportunities to further expand our operating model into working on an agile at scale. This also helps our partners who have a very large presence in the cities to co-locate, co-create, and most importantly, help us deliver to our customer missions more effectively. With the launch of the Network and Product Engineering Lab in Bangalore, Telstra becomes one of the first multinational telecom companies to open a product engineering lab in India. This helps us accelerate innovation to the next-gen mobile technology testing platforms. The lab also unleashes a host of new opportunities for Telstra in the networking space. To begin with, it enables us to create end-to-end 4G and 5G environments, which ensures a very high level of quality, device accreditation, with smarter and reduced cycle time to launch new mobile devices quickly into Telstra Australia, resulting in an enhanced customer experience. The lab is an extension of the network and IT functions at Telstra that is working on radically simplifying our digital stacks. It helps develop, architect, implement, and roll out multiple capabilities within the Telstra network, spanning from wireless networks, 4G, 5G, and IoT. I guess, as the report highlights, there are plethoras of opportunity for synergy between businesses, academia, research, and engaging all the stakeholders, which will go a very long way to foster these ties. A huge area to tap into will be the startup ecosystem between the two countries, because they really bring in an innovation right and a disruption capability that will touch every part of our lives in the future. So with Diwali around the corner, I would like to sign off by saying a very, very happy Diwali and take this opportunity that the Festival of Lights takes this relationship of the two new countries to a different orbit. Thank you, Indo-Australian Chambers of Commerce, for this wonderful work.
Thank you to Gavin Standen for those comments. Telstra is Australia's leading telecom industry. They're leaders in Australia's telecom industry. And Telstra was also a platinum partner for our initiative, and Gavin Standen on our executive council. So I think, as Suresh was mentioning, and which I'm really proud of, we began a transformational journey of the chamber since the last 3 years, and we're very keen to have the right industry as part of our board, our council, our committees, our forums. So with that, we conclude all the remarks. Thank you so much for your patience, to all of you sitting here, and to listening to all of us so patiently. Thank you very much for that. We would now like to basically have the report distributed and shared with all of you, and we'd like to take a picture of them. We would then welcome any questions. I know we're running we're running a bit late, but if there are any questions, we're happy to take that. And we'd then just like to thank our partners who are also present here today. and move on to the lunch. So with that, I think the report, if we could have all our guests who are present here with the report, and if we could have the report shared with all of you who are present here. We will take any questions that you might have. Right, okay, yes.
My question is to the Consul General. Pertaining to my question is pertaining to the possibility of Australian space firms, space tech firms investing in India, because recently there were several bilateral events where this was focused upon, where Australia and India would cooperate in a deeper manner in space. So Chandrayaan 2, in fact, the latest Gaganyaan program is one of them. But apart from that, private space entities, are they going to be, cooperating, and is there going to be any investment coming in?
Yeah, so I think thanks for the question that you had on space tech, and there was a recent initiative on that as well. So we're quite happy to share all the outcomes from those discussions and the collaborations on space tech with you. I think what we do is we will send you that information after a discussion with the consulate. There were many Australian as well as there were many Australian companies participating in the recent initiative, and we will share that with you. Okay, wonderful. So, if there are any questions, we look forward to discussing them with you over lunch. And I think as and when you read the report and the various recommendations, please do reach out. You would have our contact numbers given there. We also have something for the media. Again, I'd like to thank the Hindu Business Line, the Times of India, the Economic Times, the Deccan Chronicle, and all those who are joining us virtually as well. Unless, Deepak, did you want to add anything to that, or we could? No, right, thanks. Okay, so with that, I would like to then, we spoke about industry. We have industry partners, industry members who have been such a huge support in us being able to have this launch and this event. We'd like to honor them. I'd like to acknowledge Adani Connects Private Limited, who is here with us today as a gold sponsor. If we could have Mr. Saurabh Singh, Enterprise Sales Lead, come on stage. I'd like to thank Ms. Sarah Kalyu, Dr. Mithal, and Mr. Suresh Raman for being here. And you're most welcome if you'd like to either wait on stage or if you'd like to be seated down. We'll just. Yes, so if we could have Mr. Saurabh Singh, Enterprise Sales Lead from Adani Connects. Sarah, if you could perhaps stay on for the photographs. Thank you. The Adani Group is also corporate patron member of the Chamber. And like I was saying, we're trying to bring in all those who are very involved in this bilateral relationship. And thank you to Mr. Jayakumar Jayaraj as well for all his support and being on the Executive Council. I would like to now, appreciate and thank Karishma Solutions Private Limited, Mr. Jonas Stephen, CEO and Managing Director. Mr. Muthuswamy, CEO, is also here. Jonah is also on the board of directors, and I think someone who's been very, very supportive to us. So thank you, Jonah, again for all your support. I'd also must acknowledge ANZ Support Services India Private Limited, who is also our silver sponsor and not present here today. But thank you to Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, who is the president of the Chamber. He is with ANZ India, and Mr. S.V. Venkat Raman, Managing Director, ANZ Support Services in Bangalore. The other silver partner is Red Black Tree, Mr. Sambhu Lakshman, founder and CEO, Red Black Tree Technologies, again, who isn't here today, but we thank them for their support. Well, definitely a very important, contribution, and who has helped us right throughout the planning of this initiative, been on our working group, as well as the report, is Michael Costa, Deputy Consul General of the Australian Consulate General in Chennai. And, Suresh and the others have spoken about the efforts, but I cannot thank him enough for all the guidance that he has given me personally as well on this initiative. I think with that, we conclude today's program. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you to everyone who's present here, and for taking the time to come. I know everyone's quite busy, but thank you. This is very important to us in terms of taking forward these recommendations. Thank you to those who are joining us virtually, again, for your patience, for being on the other end. Thank you to Mr. Kumar, to Deepak, to Bhavik, to Gavin for joining us virtually, and all our members and industry contacts and other government contacts who are watching this on YouTube. Thank you, and with that, we look forward to meeting you again and the next one. Thanks very much from the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce.